blog title, and a lot of you are probably like, why on earth are we doing a session on blog title? Hopefully you'll see from some of the examples that I've pulled across some of the things that I see across Morgan McKinley, and by the time that we've gone through the whole entire program, you'll really see what it is that I look for and what I update when I go into content and how we use it, especially now we've done quite a few campaigns across. From the top, a good blog title is engaging. So I mentioned clickability earlier. You want people to click that. If it's boring, who cares, quite frankly? You might see it as a title in an email, you might see it on social media. You could have the world's best blog, but if it's a boring title, no one's going to click it. So it's kind of a waste of everything else in that blog. Setting the right expectations. So one of the words that I'm always using, and you see it in emails, and I use this word deliberately. It's not like somebody will have a word that they tend to say when they're speaking a lot. I deliberately choose to use the word context. If you missell, for lack of a better word, what a blog contains, someone will go into that blog, they'll start to read it, and they'll come straight out, so bounce off that page, and then Google recognises, hey, this page isn't what people think it is, it's rubbish, it's not good quality content. It could be really good quality content, it's just not positioned properly. Equally, if you are using content from another site, which I think is an amazing idea and we should do more of, I would always put in a teaser or something that indicates that you are sending somebody to a different site, so don't arrive on it and think, whoa, how did I get here, what's this? In terms of our candidates, we obviously send them to our local sites because that's where the jobs are. But for the moment, the facility isn't there for jobs in other countries. So say if you are in China and you send someone to the Australia site, put something that says, we saw this in the Australia site, we thought it was really good, we wanted to share with you. Something like that. And that's simple, that does it. And so therefore shows why they arrived in the Australia site. Short and sweet, so you'll see some examples of where these are really long, and the really long titles actually tend to be us in marketing rather than consultants. So when we do stuff like webinar titles or employment monitor titles or press releases, they are really long, and not only does that just look a bit weird, but it just doesn't come out in social media or on Google. And so let's keep it short and sweet. And another one, include a keyword but don't go crazy. So again, later on I will be looking at how we can include keywords and some tactics to help you to help ops. And of course we should use keywords, we want to lift up our SEO, but that shouldn't be at the sake of audience intent. So on our last content forum I spoke about audience intent. So why would a person click this? What's it going to answer? What's it going to do for them? What's the benefit? If we only chase keywords, then we're going back to 2008, and Google recognises that we are forsaking the quality of content and what our audience wants over a bunch of words on a website. So I've gone through all of this. You could read it another time if you want. I'm just going to pick out there, so the expectations. So obviously a blog title is not a magazine article. They can't see everything that's inside it. On the web, the blog title is usually the page name there. Short and sweet, same reason, won't appear in Google search results. So here are some good blog titles. And so I'd love to get this a little bit more interactive, as I've been talking to you for quite a while. Why do you think that I've put these as good blog titles? If you use the chat facility perhaps. Yeah, exactly. So if I go back to that, let's go here and present. So things like questions, and can you notice how these ones are all discipline specific? So we're using these as an example. Now we do have some very good career advice, but as we're going for discipline, you can notice two of them are how to, a good way to how to do, how to become, how to answer. On there, they're fairly short and snappy. Only the one at the end is a bit longer, and that's because the final word manager is missing. But again, that's still fairly short. We've got one that's a list item, so 7 career steps in there, so you get the general gist. So here's some ones that are not so good. These are actually taken from Galileo sites, these screenshots, but I've cut them because it shows how they look on So I think all of you on the call have this version, the older version now of the site, where when you go on the articles page, this is all you see. And the reason why these aren't so good is because I cannot tell from just looking at it what it's about. Certainly if I didn't know that this was a recruitment company, or I didn't know Morgan McKinley, I'm like, what on earth is this? So David versus Goliath, I can kind of guess because I know Morgan McKinley, I know it's a recruitment company. Early bird catches the worm. I saw this on the Irish site and I was like, what on earth is that? Well, it came up in a search I was doing. I had no idea what it was about. Taking stock, I was looking for some content. I saw that. I thought it was generic blog. No idea. And this one on the left, I've included this one because here is an example of something that we're quite bad at doing across Morgan McKinley, both consultants and marketing. It says SPC CNI Market Update Q2. What does that mean? It's a bunch of acronyms. It sounds like a barcode. So SPC actually stands for Strategy, Projects and Change. So that's internally what we call the team in the UK. CNI, we all know my love of that phrase, CNI, commerce and industry, doesn't mean much. Market update, I'll talk over this in a second, but I'm not a great fan of the phrase market update, market insights anymore. Q2, again, you can tell kind of that's Q2, but in lack of any other context, it doesn't mean anything. So that would be better as something like strategy, projects and change, recruitment update for Q2 2016 in these sectors or something. So you go and then you see what these are actually about. It does give you some more context now that you can see the leading text. So we know this taking stock one is about Brexit. This one here about the market update, it's a statement, doesn't really make me want to click. This one, it does give more context with the leading text, but the title would probably be better if it was something like David versus Goliath. Is it best to work for an MNC or a SME, a big or a small company? The one at the end, the early bird catches the worm, I read that first bit, I still have no idea what that blog is about. I would have to go in and click it. So really, I'm not going to click that. It also seems an odd thing for a recruitment company to have a picture of a bird with a worm. Why on earth would I click it? So it's very strange. So they're not so good. And I'm going to use now examples of employment monitors and recruitment updates. I mentioned there about market updates. From now on, I'm really going to push to call these recruitment updates. And I do update blogs if I see them. So there's some really, really good blogs across APAC that I see. And because I've never really given this information out to you, they are still called market updates most of the time. But if you went back and I've seen them, you'll notice I've updated. So I said earlier the title needs to grab the user's attention. Okay, great. Now let's use our employment monitor as an example. So here you've got City AM. So it's a weekday newspaper that's given out across London to professionals. And here they cover our, so you see right at the very bottom of that screenshot, it mentions Hakan Enver and our name there. And the headline here is Brexit brushed off by upbeat UK jobs market. Now they didn't call that headline London Employment Monitor July 2016. That would have been so boring. They actually pulled what the article was about and they used that as a headline. And it's very short, snappy, etc. We've got the Times, so they've put, so we obviously all know of the Times, fears for job security galvanise workers in the city. And you can see there that it includes, at the top, it's about Morgan McKinley. They didn't call it the London Employment Monitor. They've got a good headline there. And equally, we've got recruitment press. So the other two were business, they were broadsheet papers, and the business sections of those. This one is recruitment press, so different audience. So if you think of the other one, they're business professionals who are reading those areas. These are recruiters and people in the recruitment industry. So you don't have the everyday commuter reading something by Recruitment International. And they've got 18% month-on-month increase in available jobs, reports Morgan McKinley London. So again, they haven't just called it Morgan McKinley London Employment Monitor. There are a few sites that do. We used to use one called something like Global Trends Review. That's just bad marketing on their part, really. And even here, I wouldn't have said that was a fantastic headline. That's recruitment press. And if you think the people who read that would know who Morgan McKinley are. They know that we do a London Employment Monitor, so it makes sense for them to mention our name within that. I've got some examples here of employment monitors. Here, the London ones, these are actually ones that I think I would have posted because they're 2014 when I was either a marketing exec or a marketing manager for the UK. And I've highlighted there the titles. Okay, there you can't see all of it, but it goes to show they look pretty much the same because it's got to be short and snappy. It's not showing the whole thing, and they're boring. I just put London Employment Monitor. I wasn't thinking about it. Well, the image shows that it's London Employment Monitor. If you're receiving it and you know the London Employment Monitor, it doesn't matter. You would open it anyway. If you don't know about the London Employment Monitor, that is not going to make you open it. You'd be like, so what? I don't really know what that is. I probably didn't put in a leading text. And if I did, I'm using the same, which is actually damaging to SEO, and so it's pulling that through, which doesn't look great, and the only thing that's different is the percentage it is. So where you have the same leading text across blogs, that damages us SEO wise, because remember, the leading text is the meta description, and Google, there are several tools that you can use that will flag up you've got 5 pages on your site that have the same meta description. Because if you have a page, it should be different from other pages. You have it for a reason, so why would you have the same meta description? And then here we do quite a few of these on, again, marketing produced pieces. We used to do this, and I used to do this on global trend reports, if any of you remember those. And I've put, we are proud to present our January blah 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 blah. Again, who cares? We are proud to present. It doesn't really, how is that a benefit to the users? That's not a great example of leading text. So those is about the title. It goes to show how I've used pretty much the same title, and it's not even consistent. I've got infographic in the square bracket things, press releases, and it doesn't give any information, and there's no further context. So I'd posted those, but I didn't do a great job of posting that, and that's something that I was doing in marketing and I was posting. So if I'm doing it, I might as well do it properly. I've got an example here of the Australian one. So I mentioned about really long titles. So this is over 30 words long, this one. And I've actually shortened it. So I read through it. So press release, APAC Employment Monitor, Q4 2016. Whilst the figures from Australia are largely mitigated by a typical seasonal lull, the 26% decrease in jobs, blah, blah, blah. See, you can't even, if you read that yourself, you kind of like switch off halfway through. So I've gone through that. I've picked out the key points. It's only made me a few seconds to do. Employment in Australia, seasonal lull, or indicator of economic uncertainty. So it says exactly the same thing. I don't need to write press release because it's fairly obvious from the image and from the headline. You can put it in if you want for SEO reasons. I'm kind of on the fence of that because the first part of your web address would be press release. The most important words should go first. If you think of this one here, employment in Australia, it would be better to have morganmckinley.com.au/article/employment-Australia rather than /press-release-employment-Australia. Do you see what I mean there? So you could keep press release in. No point in writing in APAC Employment Monitor. It's if you receive it and you know what it is, then if you've got the image, then you can see that. And if you didn't know what it is, then you click on it because of what it's got inside it, not because of the name of what the thing is. And if you wanted to, there you go, you can add in the date. But as the date is on the blog, that would come up in Google search. If you sent it by email, you know it's the latest one. So I'm open as to whether you include the date or not. Most other things, recruitment updates, I do say keep the date in. You can pick a line from the press release. That's always a good idea, or something that it shows, but make sure it's not really, really long. I've got an example here of the UK. It's not the most exciting press release title, but when you think of who it's going to, so press release, the audience is media. So it's not SEO as such, really. You don't want to forsake a good media headline for just keywords. But it goes to show how they've put that as a blog. They just put press release and the name of it. They haven't put in London Employment Monitor, etc. And then these are the questions to ask yourself. So this is both for Employment Monitor and recruitment updates. So who do we want to reach? What do we want to be known for? on what do we want to rank for. So I've put here the one that we had from the Times and the one from the Recruitment Press, so you can see how the headlines use slightly different things, the audience are different. So in terms of the Times, we're reaching a wider audience of people who might not know us, and if they see the Employment Monitor for 3 months in a row, they begin to, and because the London Employment Monitor is about financial services only, they're like, oh yeah, those guys know about financial services. We also then rank for the subject. If we on our own site include words like city jobs, London jobs, financial services jobs, we get known for that. If we only put London Employment Monitor, we'd come up for London Employment, which is very broad. Again, with the audience, they're likely to know Morgan McKinley or what the Employment Monitor is about, or they could guess from the name Employment Monitor. And in terms of their titles, they want to rank for words related to recruitment in that semantic field. I'm going to share with you, I've put a link here. This is such an amazing tool. So this is a headline analyzer tool, and I use this quite a bit. You can use it for subject lines. When you first use this, sometimes it will ask for your data. I actually just plug in a fake name and a fake email address. I put in here London Employment Monitor for Feb 2017, and I click analyze. Yeah, see, there we go. Put Louise Melting at premier.com. pg.com. Oh, company name. Premier. Here we go. And it analyzes and it gives you a score. So 28 red, very, very low. And as you go down, it tells you why. So common words, uncommon, emotional, and how you could improve it. So your headline's a bit short. That's a bit weird. Short and the right length, etc. As I go through, and I might put something like, what was the one here? Galvanize. Right, ethnicity. This is really good actually for email subject lines, although they're different. There we go, 68, so it's gone up. And then it tells me why. So there's at least one power word, and as you go over them, it tends to bring them up. Or maybe they've changed it, but it might tell you below somewhere what they are. But it's a really, really good, it shows you how it appears with Google and so on. So this is a really, really good tool if you've got something that you're doing in particular. Or sometimes I've been on your sites and I've updated the content. I don't spend more than a minute or a minute and a half on here. You could be on here all day if you wanted. But it's good to get some ideas as to what works best. It is still an algorithm, so sometimes you might slightly disagree with it, but it gives you a general guide. So this is a really, really good tool for getting yourself really good, clickable headlines. That was in terms of actual headlines. I'm going to touch on this briefly. It's a small thing, but it does make a difference. So does your headline have random capital letters all over the place? It seems to be a habit, particularly that salespeople have. I'm not really sure why. You see there's odd capitalization. So there, why did they capitalize the first three words, but they're not unacclimatized or leaving? Jobs titles tend to be capitalized. There, I'm not sure why job searching was, but the beginning of it was. Supply chain, so a discipline will be capitalized, and that one is all capitals. In English, it's a convention that if you write in all capitals, it's to convey that you're shouting. So we wouldn't actually write like that because it looks like we're shouting. It's not a great way of doing things. There is a whole section in the Right or Wrong guide. I love their title here, Fight the Urge to Overuse Capital Letters. It's something that is done so much. They tell you when or not to use them for job titles. And generally speaking, if a job title is a proper noun, as in it replaces somebody, so if I said Graham creates a presentation for the UK office, if I then wrote the marketing executive created a presentation for the UK office, because I'm talking about the particular one, instead of saying Graham using his name, I'm using his job title, so I would have capital letters for that. If I'm talking about A1 in general, like we are looking for a marketing executive, it would be lowercase because it's not a person. That's one of the rules, but they're in there. And I've got an example here. This is actually a job, but you can see there's random capitals all over the place here. And then I've taken that to prove a point here. So we've got a leading hospitality group. Because the group is in hospitality, it's describing what kind of company it is. They capitalised it. They capitalised the so they're looking for an accomplished finance analyst, not a particular person, but just one in general, to work closely with sales and operational teams in providing effective financial and commercial support. So this person is doing financial and commercial support. So the tasks that they're doing at work, they're capitalised. And here I'm doing the same thing. So if I say he mops the floor in the pet shop, why would I capitalise mops? I wouldn't. So why would I capitalise that somebody is doing financial and commercial support? I wouldn't. So if I say I wash the dishes, I don't capitalise wash with a capital W, do I? Just because it's a pet shop or a clothes shop, I wouldn't make a capital C on a clothes shop. So just because it's a hospitality group doesn't mean to say it has a capital H. So some very basic grammar rules go out of the window when it comes to jobs or when it comes to blog titles. So I think all of you on the call, English is not your first language. General rules that you already know are still the same, and even though recruiters write it, it isn't correct what they're doing, so you are okay to change it. That's blog titles in summary. That's everything I'm going to cover today. Interesting titles with no jargon. So you remember that example that we had of SPC, CNI, market update. Give context, context, context. So what is it about? So I showed you some of the blogs there, the early bird catchers. There were no idea what that would be about. The taking stock one, which was about Brexit. If you want people to click in it, you have to give them an idea of what's inside that blog, or at least give them the correct idea of what's inside. If they go in and it's not what they're expecting, it's damaging for your site, and they're also not going to go anywhere else on your site. Don't use all capitals. It's like you're shouting, and check capitalization if you need to. And I didn't show you this tool, but I'm going to show you this. So this is a really, really good tool. I always just copy and paste stuff if I'm not entirely sure. If you're not sure how to use capitals in a title, then this website shows you. And you can see some of them change depending on what I've got as the next one. So you can just copy and paste in there, and it would tell you what goes in there. So I'll just nick something from here, shall I? So say I copy that and go into here. There you go. So it's capitalised it for me. So that's a tool that you can use if you're not sure what to do where. So that's everything that I was going to cover today. Do we need an account to use Code Schedule? No, not at all. You saw when I went in there, I did come up with some questions. I mean, you could give it your real details. I don't, because I don't want to get sales calls and so on. First time you go on, it will probably ask your name, what you do, and your company. I just put in Premier Group or some of that because not many people know that Premier Group is Morgan McKinley. And then you might have to answer questions on what your team's like. And then about the next 4 or 5 times, you don't have to put anything in. Should we amend all our old blogs? Good question. If you had the time and you wanted to go through all of the old ones, I'm not going to stop you. That would be great. I'd say yes when you see them. Don't feel like you have to go and spend the next 3 days solid doing it. But definitely as you see an old blog, go and update these things. Do reuse blogs as well. So when you do your share emails, say you only have like 2 new blogs or something that week, you can put in a third blog and say, I don't know, call it Golden Oldie or something, and find a blog that could be 3 years old. You don't need to change the date. In fact, it's probably better for SEO if you don't. And add that in to be reshared, as long as the content inside is the same. If you have no blogs, I know Anita, you were saying when the salary guide was being done, the consultants were concentrating on work they were doing. So Rio had said it was fine not to write blogs for a couple of weeks. You know what? that is okay, but just reuse old blogs. There's no reason why there couldn't be one blog that the whole office shares for that week that you send in your email round, and as you go through then you can update them. I would just be careful if you're changing titles. You will remember from the salary guide that you have to untick that box at the bottom that says generate automatic URL alias. It depends what the title is, but because that web address already exists, it just avoids a redirect. I don't know, it depends. If it might not have SEO value, just bear that in mind when you change blog titles. Okay, so that was a good question, Caroline. Cool. Right, I'm going to end that there then. If you do think of anything later on, then don't hesitate to pop me an email or a chat.